right. Al Lasada.
Here.
Marlene Garcia.
Here.
Don Contreras. Here. Sandra Mallow. Karen Buckley.
Here.
Rose Douse.
Here.
Christine Spitzer.
Here.
Rob Drown.
Present.
Laura Drown.
Here.
Tambra Courtright.
Here.
Margaret Atwell.
Here.
Rebecca Carlson.
Present.
Alfred Dunning.
Here.
Martin Heatley.
Here.
Joanna Lasaga.
Present.
Tom Pessoa.
Here.
And Florentina DiGennaro.
Here.
Okay.
You have a report.
Perfect.
Lord, we thank you for all who are here and all that you have brought into the fold. And I just pray for your presence here as we discuss the events of this past month and the things that are coming up. We pray for your hand on this county and this area. We pray that you would move and help and give us strategy and tools that we need to help get elected the people you would have in office. We pray that the government of God would prevail in this area as opposed to whatever it is that's trying to take over. We pray against any schemes of the Democratic Party to sabotage our efforts to be thwarted, and that we would prevail, that you would prevail. And we thank you for your hand on this meeting tonight in Jesus' name.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda.
Second.
I'd like to put the chair report on the agenda as number 6. Everything else will move down.
And Rob, you seconded it? Perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Perfect, motion carries. The consent agenda, which includes our special meeting minutes, our regular meeting minutes, and our treasurer's report. I believe we have a motion to amend the special meeting.
I'm gonna make a motion to amend the minutes of the special meeting and the change of the comment of $70,000 annually to $70,000 over a 3-year lease period.
I'll second.
Seconded it?
Perfect, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries on that. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Rob? I'm sorry, Robert? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Perfect, motion carries. Item 6. So the chair report. Ready? Okay. I'll try,
I didn't hear who seconded that
I'll,
motion. Who made the motion?
Rob.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The chair report, we have been busy. We were at the Yuba Center stroll in Yuba City. That was phenomenal. It was crazy, off the hook busy. We had all kinds of people lined up. We had 3 people in the trailer and 3 people lined up waiting to look at the swag. We had 2 people outside the trailer talking to people. It was very busy. Just great comments, great conversations with people, and it really kind of set the tone for us moving forward into the fair. We had over 200 outreach conversations with people at the fair. We registered to vote 28 different people. I say different people because, you know, the Democrats are probably registering the same person, but it was very, very positive. Again, we had a lot of like 17, 18-year-olds, and they weren't like just spewing perhaps what their parents they've heard their parents talk about, but they were talking about, I mean, they could carry on the conversation, they could stand on their own, and it was phenomenal. It was very inspiring. This next generation of these young people are off the hook conservative, and it's a very, very positive thing. In my spare time, I thought, what the heck, I'm not doing anything, so I called Rebecca. We took the trailer out to Plymouth Lake. Again, good conversations with different people, you know, people just coming up and talking to us and their frustration, voicing their frustration like we all have. So again, and you guys haven't seen the trailer yet, some of you have, but it basically looks like our signs. So it's a red wrap with our signs, very basic. So that was good. As the vice chair of the CCA, I made a trek down to Fresno County for their grand opening of their new headquarters. Very well attended. It was hotter than you know what, and it was on asphalt. So it was just extremely warm, but I delivered signs to them. I left Fresno, I went to Merced County, met with Sheila, their chair, and delivered more signs. And then I went to Oakdale and met with the treasurer of Tuolumne County and gave them their signs. So these signs are getting out and about and up and down the state. So it's exciting to see that happen. The other thing I've done is I've been helping Modoc County. Modoc County sits in the northeast corner of California in the Oregon-Nevada border. It's up in seriously God's country. I think there's 9,000 registered voters for the whole county. So they have had some hiccups within their county and some issues with their chair. They finally got their chair removed and started their county going in the right direction, but they haven't had a Lincoln dinner or a fundraiser for 4 years. So as we've done with other counties, we sold the swag to them at cost, and they were able to move that stuff. They made enough money, they raised enough money to cover the cost of 2 events plus their fair booth and a little bit of extra. And they are excited that they're making contacts after being dead for 4 years. That's the difference that Yuba County is having with all of these counties. We're making a difference, and they're affecting the people within their county. So it's been exciting to do, to contact with these guys, these fellow Republicans, and get them excited for this election. I finally have made contact with the CHP, and I have an appointment with them on July 17th. So the trailer, hopefully at that point, the guy didn't sound very enthusiastic, but hopefully we will have our VIN and a new VIN put on. We also have our thank you cards finally printed. We have the list ready to go with addresses. We're waiting on, we've got to clarify some other of the addresses, but we have a list to start going on. Marlene would be our thank you card chair, and then so anybody who wants to help out with that, if you want to talk to Marlene, you guys can set up a committee and make arrangements, and if you want to be here, holler and we can get you. Also, something new that we're doing, if you look in the newsletter, we have a member of the month. And Martin has been so kind as to do our member, or our newsletter, and he has, he chose Rose to be our member of the month. And it's a very nice article.
Woohoo! Way to go, Rose.
So our inaugural person for our member of the month, but we each have our lives and we have, you know, our belief system and what have you, and so highlighting each person, I think, takes a little time, and I think it's nice to connect with them on a personal level versus the committee level. Also, I wanted to announce that starting July 9th, which is tomorrow, through August 13th, every Tuesday for 6 weeks, is a Constitution class from Rick Green of the Patriot Academy being held at Calvary Chapel, off of Highway 20 in Yuba City. So if you guys are interested, we have some more of these. We've got a lot of stuff coming up, and we have guest speakers tonight, so we will try to get through all of this and in an expeditious manner. We have some expenditures. So while we are at the booth, we are registering people to vote. The California GOP will pay us $3.25 per registration. If we get a phone number and or an email, it is $5, and if we get a phone number and an email, it is then $6.25. And so we take those hard copy, that's big money, I know. But we take those hard copies, and then I have to go through and I have to re-enter all of the information that they wrote on the registration form, which is very time consuming. And also, something that we will be doing is making phone calls to our constituents within the county to vote for this, that, or the other, whoever we have running for boards or what have you. And so I would like, Placer County was able to purchase, I believe it was 10 iPads for $500. No, in total. And they got a screaming deal on them, and they're helping to find that screaming deal again. And with the cost of inflation at, I think I saw somebody's post on Facebook today at 136%, I don't know that we will get that amount, 10 for 500, but, we're looking into that. It would help us register these people to vote, save me time or somebody time in re-inputting this information, and it goes straight to the California GOP in which we would get paid. I will tell you, some of these people, they no longer, I'm sure you all know this, but they no longer teach penmanship in schools. And so, I think everybody's told their children they're gonna grow up to be doctors because they were very difficult to read. And so I'm not sure if we got the right information in there or what, but it's being handled. So I would like to be able to purchase these iPads so that we could make those phone calls in calling our constituents within the county, and that we could be more effective in the booth. So,
I would move.
I'm not sure the amount that we wanna put on there. How about we say no more than 1,000, and hopefully it'll come under?
Yeah, I move that we purchase iPads not to exceed $1,000 paid in registration.
Do we have a second?
Excuse me, do we have any questions from the floor?
Well, you have to have a first, and you have to have a second, and then you can have discussion. So what's your question, Tom?
All right. Is there a competitor that offers them? I'm not an Apple fan, and does PC offer
Android.
any type of comparable product?
So Placer County's chair is a tech guy, and so he would be looking into that, and that's a question I can definitely ask him. We need to make sure that it's user friendly for these guys, and that it would be able to go in the trailer with us and go, be able to use here and whatnot. So, but that's a good point. I will be sure and ask him that.
Thank you.
So, all those in favor?
Wait, Joanne, I got a couple questions.
Yep.
You said you use the iPad for phone calls?
You can, yeah.
Okay. Do we need phone lines for it? We're gonna be having
Voice over
Oh,
internet
okay.
protocol.
Okay.
Yep.
It's through Campaign Sidekick, which is what is offered through California.
That's awesome. Okay.
So we have a first, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Oh. We're gonna need a rugged case form. We need a place to put them.
We'll take care of it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor? Is there anybody opposed? Perfect, motion carries. Thank you. So when you look at our financials and you look at what the money that we came in, through the fair and through the stroll, we purchased a bunch at convention, and I think we made it through the stroll, and everything we purchased at convention is gone. So we are now asking for more money for swag in terms of getting I'm voting for the convicted felon shirt. And we were asked to have that, and so I think that is something that's gonna fly off the shelf. So, I would say, looking for a motion in the amount of no more than $2,500.
I make a motion to return no one can have another,
I'll second.
You heard enough.
Can I just say something real quick?
You wanted to shut enough, really?
We got a first, we got a
No,
second.
no,
we
no,
have- Okay,
is that enough
we have
for
a
that?
first, we have a second.
Okay.
Now it's discussion. So,
Yeah.
let's hear from Rebecca, who is in charge of doing most of the ordering.
So out of this is my third year doing the booths and the events.
Yeah.
We've like, just like inflation's gone up, the enthusiasm, the resolve, the amount of swag that we are moving is unbelievable. Literally clearing us out in one day. And the fair, we literally did 4 times as much as we normally would selling swag. We did not have enough in the trailer. So I wanna thank you guys for, understanding, maybe you're not at the events like some of us are, to see what's actually happening, but they're like sharks in the water.
We have a motion on the floor. We have a first and a second. Do you have anything to add?
That's it.
2,500 enough, or do we need more than that?
I wouldn't mind raising it up to 3.
Okay.
I would like to amend the motion from 2,500 to 3,000.
So do we have a second on that? Perfect, so we have a motion to amend. So all those in favor of the 3,000 for swag?
Well, first we have to vote on the.
Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And now, may I have all those in favor of the $3,000 for purchase of new swag?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Perfect, motion carries. On to our election of our replacement officers. We'll take them one at a time. As we know, when Rose stepped down we have secretary. When Margaret stepped down as secretary, I appointed John as our interim secretary, and it has been a month. Nobody else has spoken up that they would be interested in that position. So I would have a motion to approve John as our secretary.
I'll make a motion.
Awesome, Karen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Perfect. Congratulations, Don, and welcome to the team.
Do I sing my song now?
That's perfect, yeah.
Now, on the treasurer, same thing. When Rose stepped down, we appointed Tom as the interim treasurer. He has been working with Florentina in regards to that. We put it out to other people. Nobody else really would like this job. So, guilty by association type thing. So I would be looking for a motion to approve Florentina as our new treasurer.
I would like to make a motion that we set Florentina as our new.
Awesome. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Again, welcome to the team.
Woohoo! Congratulations!
Now there's something that we've all been working on, and that has been finding people to be our alternates, and finding people who are as passionate as we are, and who, who if we, in our absence, and this is all of the voting members, but in our absence, who would be able to take our place and vote and be that person. And so I have reached out to Christina to see if she would be my alternate, and she has agreed to be my alternate, and so I'm appointing her as my alternate. And so in the past, according to our bylaws, we need a letter written, that will be submitted. And it doesn't necessarily have to be approved by the committee, but we've done that in the past, and so I would like to continue with how we've done things in the past. So all those in favor of, having Christina as my alternate, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any discussion? Welcome. Couple more things. I know you're probably getting tired of my monologue here, but our new headquarters is rapidly moving forward, and I know there were many concerns as far as making enough money to offset the rent, and so I always have, you know, a little trick up my sleeve, and so I reached out to a gentleman by the name of David Hebert, and I will read you what he sent me in regards to his qualifications. His name is David Hebert. He was born and raised on a small farm just outside of Antioch, California. He entered the U.S. Air Force as a security police specialist canine handler. His first assignment was at Beale in Marysville in 1978. In 1981, he left the Air Force and joined the Arcadia Police Department. He received the Exceptional Service Award for saving many lives in a large condo fire. In 1987, he joined the U.S. States Marshal Service. In 1988, he was selected to try out for the Marshal Service's Special Operations Group. While on a special operation in Miami, Florida, he arrested one of the biggest fugitives in the world at that time, Willie Falcone, king of the cocaine cowboys. Later, he was transferred to the U.S. Marshal's office in Fresno. There, he created a highly successful Joint Fugitive Task Force. He received the U.S. Marshal Service's highest award, the Director's Award. He also started his own TV show, The Valley's Most Wanted, on the local Fox station. In 2002, the Marshal Service sent him to Congress to help write the Homeland Security Act, while working for the late Congressman Chris Cannon of Utah. While running the Fugitive Task Force out of Fresno, he became the first and only federal officer to receive the California State Attorney General's Award. And as you back up into his career, in 1984, his best assignment ever was being a young deputy sheriff in Yuba County. So he's coming full circle, and he wants to help us and come be a speaker at an event for us. So that will be, we're figuring out a time for that, but it'll probably be in the later month of August to early part of September. I then had reached out to a man by the name of Lawrence Spivak. He is quote-unquote called the free market warrior. His bio reads as follows. He's a popular speaker at Republican and conservative events all over the United States. He was the keynote speaker at the Michigan, Illinois, and Minnesota state conventions of Republican Women Federated in the autumn of 2023. In the past, he has been the keynote speaker at state Republican Women Federated conventions in Virginia, California, Arizona, and Nevada. Lauren was, along with Kellyanne Conway, the keynote speaker for the Delaware State Republican Convention in April of 23. Previously, he has been a keynote speaker at the Idaho and Oregon State Republican Conventions. He spoke at the Michigan GOP's biannual Mackinac Conference in 23. Always with a fresh take, Warren examines the issues of our time through the eyes of an economist and reveals fundamental truths underlying the political challenges we face. He speaks on a wide variety of topics, both narrowly focused, the path not taken, fixing American healthcare with capitalism, and very broad, why we fight understanding the modern left. He has written 7 books, and you have to hear the names because they're kind of comical. But The New Democrat, a parody of the Obama administration. The Gorax, which is sort of like the Lorax from Dr. Seuss, but it's the Gorax, an anti-environmentalist parody. The Wizard of Iz, a parody of the Clintons and the Democrats in general. To think that I saw it on CNN Live, a parody of the media in the Trump era. Motley Click, a parody of critical race theory and identity politics. Camelot, a parody of the Biden administration. And The Fisherman's Husband, a parody of the LGBTQIA plus minus division movement. And his 8th book, it will be a parody of public education, and it will be out in early 25. Both of these guys are donating their time to come out and speak to us. And so we will be having some type of an event with them as we go forward and, are in our new headquarters. We also have some other things, planning. We have some, sponsorship events or availabilities that we'll be working on. And so there's more things to come. Thank you, Ann, for that contact. Much appreciated. Your friend, I can't remember her name. I'm drawing a blank on her name right now. From the dinner she donated.
Oh, yeah. Shelley?
Sure, yes. So, anyway, anybody with contacts as far as speakers and stuff like that, I think it would be awesome to have some of our locals, speak and, like we have tonight, but on a grander scale. So those are some things we have, working on, coming down the pike.
Having these, gentlemen speaking, will it be fundraisers?
Absolutely. Their intent to come is so that they can help us raise money.
I hope Kylie's there after what he did with the Constitution, you know, here in California as far as the homeless problem. That would be a person I think a lot of people would like to hear from with what he did in the Supreme Court. And I know it's easy to get him up here.
Well, suggestions like that are, you know, helpful.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, when you pull somebody out of thin air kind of a thing and nobody knows, it's nice to have people, and our local representatives should be, helping us. Maybe we'll have Doug, I don't know, we'll have to think on it. Anyway, so that's the update on the new headquarters. It is already underway, things are moving and shaking, and it is at 526 East Street, if anybody wants to stop in. So again, on the membership drive, each and every one of us has I think now Margaret and I are the only two that have alternates, and so everybody has a seat behind them that's open, and that we can have people, you know, put on there, and we can talk about that later. So something.
John is Rebecca's alternate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Rebecca and I are the only two that have alternates. Sorry. Way to go. So anyway, so without further ado, Measure C is coming up, and we have met, or we have spoken with, we have Councilman Bud Cavoli, we have Jim Shadd, the city manager, and we have Chris Sachs, the chief of police for Marysville PD. And so these three gentlemen are going to speak on the topic of Measure C. We're going to have some Q&A in the end. It's just going to depend on how much time. I've been trying to rip through here so that we can have time to spend with these guys. We're going to have some Q&A. We will be respectful, whether you like Measure C or whether you don't like Measure C. Whatever we say, we will be respectful, or if you're not, we will just ask you to leave. We just need to hear what they have to say, and it's an informational session like we've had before, when Wendell was here, when Willie from the water agency was here, and that kind of a thing. So without further ado, I don't know if you guys want, who wants to go first?
I think I know many of you. Some of you very well, some of you sort of. I've met some, and a few that I don't. I'm Bruce Cavoli. I'm the Marysville Vice Mayor. I've been on the council for 6 years now, and I was on the Planning Commission 6 years before that. I've been in Marysville this far from 70 years, so I've spent my whole life here. I'm here to explain, if there are questions, and let you know where I stand when it comes to the Measure C. I am a very strong Republican. If you didn't know, have a conversation with me and I'll tell you. Rebecca was in my office and pointed out that I was a lot more right-wing looking than I pretend to be.
Nah.
But this Measure C is something that none of us like to increase taxes. This is not an increase by any means, it's an extension. If it was an increase, I probably wouldn't be supporting it either. And that's the truth. Now, being here so many years, being involved with the city, I've seen the city go from way up to way down to part way up, and now we have had such a momentum swing that we need this to continue what we're doing. Whoops.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You wanna lean on me?
Yeah, I do need to lean on you. So, with all the momentum we have, or have had up until this fire, which is slowing us down, it shows why we need this tax extended. It's really been financially hard on the city. Jim can talk to you about that. Chris will be able to let you know because he's one of the pieces of the city that has really needed the extra finances, support of the council, along with the fire department. If we hadn't gotten this before, we would have truly been in trouble with this emergency, and we will call it emergency because we've got a long ways to go to get the mess cleaned up. So, I'm not even here to ask you to support it. I'm here to ask you not to try to refute it on reasons that you may not understand. So if you have questions after these guys talk, I guess we'll have a Q&A. We'll be more than glad to try to explain to you. But I'm going to tell you again, it is an extension. I would not support a new tax, no matter what. And that's where we set today. So I'm going to let Jim talk to you. Jim's kind of the bean counter, the head bean counter. And if you have some more numbers you want to know, you can ask him. I'm not sure if you guys asked us to come talk about the bean counting or just to understand where our need is, where our hearts are, and why we have to support it as a council.
Before you sit down, Bruce,
Yes.
Will you poll the audience here tonight and ask how many are actual residents in the municipality of the city of Marysville?
Oh.
I would like you to.
I would
for a
love
show
to
of
know
hands.
how many are direct residences in the city of, let's make sure we know the city of Marysville, the levy ring.
Yes.
How many we got? About 8 of us? About 8 of us, yeah. So, and let me just kind of finish with this. It's 1 cent on every dollar, that 1%. If you go anywhere else to shop, you're paying at least what we are, with the exception of Yuba City and Sutter County, who, by their admission, are suffering and are trying to get it passed over there. They didn't get it passed last time. Yuba City area supported it, the county didn't. They need it. We understand why they need it. We would, again, I would not support a tax increase, but I definitely will support this extension. Okay? So, Jim?
Thank you, Bruce.
You bet.
I resent him calling me a bean counter.
But resemble it.
Jim Shad, city manager for the city of Marysville. I'm the guy you typically don't see. These are the guys you see, and I have 5 bosses, all with pretty same thought processes and principles. Where we typically argue is over how to get something done, not what to get done. And so Measure C is one of those things. I've only been here 3 years. I heard Fresno quite a bit in your discussion. I came from Fresno. I was in the city of Fresno, worked as an assistant city manager there. A lot bigger community. Fresno County, very conservative. City of Fresno, not so much. My job is really not to be the politician. My job is supposedly to be apolitical. I am a Republican. I voted for Trump. I'll vote for Trump again. But that's not why I'm here. I wanted to give you guys just the basics of where we're spending the money and how much money we're getting, and then a couple other small ones. So, as I mentioned, or Bruce mentioned, 1% sales tax. The current tax is 1%. We're asking to renew that at 1%. So no increase, it's just a continuation. Tax was passed, the initiative was passed in 2016. It'll expire in 2026. So we're going a little early, as most do, and we're hoping that you will be successful. So, I mentioned the 1%. So the sales tax rate here is 8.25. 6% goes to the state. We see 1% of the 8.25, and then the 1% of Measure C.
Can I get
Sure.
clarification? Is the 8.25% just within the city of Marysville?
Yes.
What's Yuba County?
It is the same, actually.
I was gonna ask for
Yeah.
Yuba County.
Their Measure K is created the same.
That's what it was. Okay, thank you.
So, same as the Yuba counties, many municipalities have the same tax, but that's not necessarily a selling point, is it? I'm not a big tax guy either. Here's the issue, or how I feel about it, as a city manager. We generate a revenue of about $12 million a year. This tax represents about a third of that. Our last year's tax was $3.9 million. Initially, we were down in roughly the $2 million, but with some changes in how internet sales were taxed, we started receiving more money. The big question you probably have is what we're using it for. What the heck are we using $3.9 million for? So to give you perspective, his budget is about $4 million, the police budget. And the fire, I'm not the bean counter, and Jennifer could give us it probably in cents, but fire is probably around $2 million. So the majority of the money goes to public safety. The other big ticket item is our public works department, and a lot of street projects have been done with that money recently. To give you an idea, and Chief Sachs can explain the police department a little more, but way back in 2016, we were down to 24 police staff. We are now up to 32. And so Measure C was most of that money. I think one exception is school resource officer, but the rest of those were through Measure C. Fire.
Say that again? The school resource officer?
We do get paid for one school resource officer. So the majority of those positions were officers, sworn officers. We had a couple of dispatchers, an animal control officer, and another CSO. Fire. So fire back in 2016, and I wasn't here in 2016, but I pieced this together from talking to staff. Fire was down to having to cut down to 2-man shifts. And what that means is they have 2 people to respond to any given fire within the city. That is miserable. That's like a volunteer fire department. We're up to 4-man shifts now. 4-man shift usually lets us respond to 2 incidents at once. And about 80% of our calls are medical. The rest, a smaller proportion is fires actually. So we are responding to medical calls a lot, and being able to have 2 units respond to just 2 separate calls is huge. So that, the fire staff was the other biggie, went from 11 members to 15. 3 of those were firefighters. That allowed us, we run 3 shifts, so that allowed us to go from 3 people to 4 people and not have to cut people. Because we were at 3, we were going to have to cut to 2, but with Measure C, we were able to go to 3 and then eventually 4. So those are the 2 department biggies, I would say, as far as personnel. We've added some public works folk, people that fix the roads, mow the parks and stuff like that, but the majority of it was public safety. Another big item, streets. So, very few streets had been done in the past. In 2016, no streets. We were not paving anything. There was just not money to do it. We kind of saved up our money with Measure C, and last year we did about $3.5 million worth of street paving. That was mostly in East Marysville. I know everybody would like their street paved, and their street is the worst street of all, but we have to pick, and we use some logic there, and we look at the worst streets and try and pave those which are the most expensive to pave, but we also look at some of the newer streets, and if we do something called a seal coat or a
slurry
seal, that helps preserve the road and keep it longer. So we try and balance that out. But the amount of dollars that we could spend on streets is significantly more than even our budget for the entire year. And I don't think that's unusual. When I was in Fresno, same thing. Streets were just killing everybody. There's just so much street repair and not enough funds to do it. So, one of our goals with Measure C was public safety. One of them was streets. We had some in there for parks, and we've done a little bit of work with parks. I wouldn't say we've done a lot with parks relative to like streets or public safety, but when people are prioritizing, streets and public safety tend to be a higher priority than parks. The last big thing that we did was our reserve. And the reserve, and I'm not trying to dumb it down, but our reserve is like our savings account. And we were down to about $260,000 in 2016. That's wasn't enough to do one payroll period, 1 month payroll period. So that's living hand to mouth.
Sounds like it's time for
We're now at about, at the end of 2024, 2025, we'll be at about 5.3, which is 38%. And that changes depending on whether we have some extenuating circumstance. That's kind of what it's there for, is if we have a problem. So example, the Marysville Hotel, if we have to step in and do something there, then we'll probably pull some from our reserves to do so. So, much better shape fiscally. Our reserve lets us do a few things. It lets us borrow money if we need to at a lower interest rate, and that's because our credit rating had gone into the tanks, and our credit rating has consistently improved. It's just like your personal credit rating. You can borrow money for cheaper, you can borrow money more easily. Now I don't really like to borrow money. I don't borrow a lot of money personally, but it's nice to be able to, like, I have a very high credit limit on my credit card, and I pay it off every month. So my credit score is very good, and it tends to build on itself. That's what the city has done. We've increased our reserve, we've become more financially stable, and our credit rate has gone up, and therefore we can borrow money if we want to. The other thing the reserve does is, you guys probably know we get grants. Most of those grants are on a reimbursement basis. So we don't get the money until we do the work. So we gotta front the money, which our reserve allows us to do. Otherwise, we would be borrowing that money and paying interest on that. So the reserve earns us money, and we invest that in not overly aggressive, but pretty good returns. Like right now, we're doing some treasury bonds because the interest rate's very good. And then we're able to use that money to upfront pay for the grant. The other thing about grants is a lot of times they'll have a match. So let's say we're going to get a roads grant. We may have to pay 80% of the cost of the project, and the feds or the state pays for the other 80%. So we have to have that money available too. An example, this is a fairly good example. when we did, over, East 22nd, those roundabouts that are so controversial, I'll just frame that. So, we had an opportunity to get a grant from SACOG, the folks down in Sacramento, for $3.5 million to pave all of 22nd, all the way from Chime, where we left off, to Ramirez. So, what we were able to tell SACOG is, we're matching this by paving from 22nd to Chime. And that was how we sold SACOG on giving us another 3.5. So that's in the works, and it's the state, so it moves fairly slow. And we anticipate doing that project in 2025, as well as some other paving projects. So that's what the reserve does for us. I'll just, and I'm not trying to sell anybody on taxes. I don't like to pay taxes either. I usually vote against taxes. But I do think, and maybe I'm biased because I'm the city manager, but I think we spent the money well. We haven't wasted money on what I would call frivolous programs. We've been working on the basics: public safety, roads, parks, the things that most conservatives want to see. Not a lot of social programs, to be honest with you. It's still going to be 1%. It's 1% now. We're talking about 1% in the future. The typical groceries and medicine aren't taxed in this 1% tax. And we are looking at, likely this time, having what's called an oversight committee. We haven't decided exactly what that would be, but that is something we want to make sure we're actually spending the money the way Marysville residents do. I know a lot of you aren't from Marysville, but what I've heard from the Marysville constituents consistently: homelessness, not dealing with the effects of homelessness and the vandalism and the crime associated with it. Our public safety, fire response times, streets, roads, sidewalks.
Homelessness and dealing with it is
make
how
sure
they
we have
originally sold this, ladies and gentlemen.
And that's what the original measure said, that's what the new measure will say, and that's what I want to continue spending money on. So that's all I got.
Thanks, Jim.
Hold on a second. You're fine, Jim. We're gonna have Chris talk about, and then we can have a question for
Yeah. It's totally up to you guys. If you want to hear status of the Marysville Hotel, we can do that. If there's
Let's
time.
do it after. I don't wanna, I
agree.
have questions, but.
It's not booked, it's not going.
Good evening, Christian Sachs, Chief of Police, City of Marysville. Been here for 23 years, police chief for the last 6 years. So, like Bruce, I haven't been here 70 years, or that short of it. But I can tell you that we've seen the highs and the lows. And prior to 2016. And this isn't new information. This is just the information we have that we've put out throughout the years. But when we were at the lowest of lows, at that point in time, we were on work furloughs, which means all the administrative staff within the department was on furloughs, taking at least one day off every 2 weeks. City staff within City Hall, same thing. It got to the point where there was so much cuts within the police department as far as salaries and stuff and wages that the union came back and said enough's enough, and you're not going to take any more money from us, so start laying off employees. So the city decided that was the best choice at that point in time, and they started cutting the budget and laying off police officers. So at that point in time, we went down to 14. So that was a sergeant and 1 officer, so literally 2 people per shift. So the positions that were frozen at that point in time, throughout the course of those next few years, after the passage of it, additional funding was provided to the organization, and we were able to fund some of those positions back. if you saw some of our cars back then, the only brand new car prior to 2017 that the city ever bought for the police department was prior to 2001. In 2001, Carlos Jr. donated a brand new 2001 Crown Victoria to the police department. We had the Carlos Jr. logo on the side of it. It was a sponsor type thing. That's the only brand new car we've ever gotten, and everybody wanted it until 2017. We bought cars from Yuba City, Highway Patrol, Santa Clara PD until they built their own Coliseum, and they have their own police department at the Coliseum, so they kept their cars after that. But we were going and buying all the run-out cars that had 140,000, 150,000 miles on them, band-aiding them, putting them, keeping them going for the last leg. And so we had reduced training at that point in time, because obviously less officers, there was reduced training, but they were getting sent to just the bare minimums. So that went down. Equipment, we weren't able, obviously didn't have the funding for personnel, so therefore much needed equipment such as cars, radars, lidars, those types of things, technology-wise, just wasn't there for the organization. So since then, we were able to add 3 of the sworn officers back. So we're at 19 sworn right now. The position that the city manager talked about was about the SRO. So our school resource officer, we petitioned both schools, Marysville Joint Unified School District, along with Yuba County Office of Education. I met with both of them. They do a 70-30 split on that officer's salary. 70% Marysville Joint pays for it, 30% Yuba County Office of Education to provide an officer in the schools specifically for them. We added community service officers for the organization. One community service officer is specifically assigned to homeless outreach and engagement, along with code enforcement. She wears multiple hats. And then the other one helps handle cold calls for service, but then also all of our vehicle abatement. In addition to that, we had to add a records clerk we never had a records clerk, and so with the amount of records requests that come in, but then also all the new state mandates, there's a new 290 PC, which is our sex offender registration program. They went to that whole new tiered concept where people will get all their cases overturned or reduced, and therefore basically are deregistering, and now they're in tiers. And so basically we have to have somebody specifically for that. And then since COVID, our district attorney's office, we used to hand walk all these written reports over to the district attorney every day and file them with them. Well, since COVID, everything went remote. So now there's a system where we have to log in from our office, and all of our reports have to be data entered into their system, and then it uploads to the DA's office electronically. So with the big burden of all the added reporting, we had to add a records clerk to our division. The constituents of the city of Marysville came forward because we had contracted with Yuba County Animal Care Services for our animal control, and they were starting not to be happy with that. They wanted their own animal control, or animal care services within the city. So we looked at that program on a part-time basis, and then it went to a full-time basis, so now it's fully funded. We've got one full-time animal control officer with the vehicle and all the equipment that's needed for that, and for that immediate response to help out with any of those calls for service that we have. She also wears multiple hats when she's not doing that. She's helping them with the homeless outreach and engagement, because a lot of our unhoused also have animals out there, so it's getting them into programs that are getting those dogs in the system with registration, rabies, and all that type of stuff too as well. So developing those programs. We went to a body-worn camera system, so all of our officers have body-worn cameras along with in-car cameras in the patrol units, which has proven very valuable, reduces complaints, but also increases the amount of time that we have officers out in the field, because they're spending less time in court because of the video evidence. So when those cases are going to the district attorney, all week long we're getting requests from the district attorney to upload videos to them. We upload them electronically to them, and so with that new technology, we're able to give that video evidence to the district attorney and to the defense, and we're seeing a lot less time in court, which is nice. Having funding and kind of being steady on our feet allows us to partner with the Department of Homeland Security. And so with that, we were able to get license plate reader cameras through Department of Homeland Security grant. So the LPR cameras are situated throughout the community. Yuba County's got several of them. Yuba City and Sutter County are just getting theirs approved, but ours are within the city. We have some now, and we've got a project with Caltrans and Department of Homeland Security where we're expanding that program this year.
Excuse me, is there someone that's,
Is anybody parked on this side building?
I'm not sure.
Special service announcement, right? No, you're good. We just did a special service announcement, we're good. So, Department of Homeland Security, so LPR cameras. So, you know, people have thought about it, you know, before. It's like, oh my gosh, Big Brother, you're all watching us. No, it tracks the license plate numbers that go through the system. All of the stolen vehicles that are entered in the system, the license plate readers capture those. If there's a felony warrant on a person and their car's associated with it, if they're on a terrorism watch list, any of your silver alerts for elderly, all the way to amber alerts for children, as long as there's a car associated with it and it's linked to it, it'll be uploaded in that system. We've used that system when the two kids got ran over a couple years ago at or a year and a half ago now, in front of the Marysville High School at the youth center. The one young lady got killed. We actually used license plate reader technology to do a grid search for vehicle make, model, and color with a toolbox and a rack on the back of it, because we had picked up some camera footage of that type of vehicle. We were able to put that information in there and be able to narrow down a field of vehicles that went through certain cameras within the entire county at that point in time, and actually set up a grid and knew where it didn't go, knew where it drove and where it didn't drive. And then we did a good old-fashioned police work, and then just did grid searches in the police cars within that perimeter, and we found them. We found the car, we found the guy, and now he's currently going away for it. So the technology's helped us be able to get to that, you know, what we didn't have before. And then, you know, lastly, it's just been one of those things where it's nice to be able to have that equipment. When we talked about the patrol vehicles earlier, just to highlight those old patrol cars, I'll never forget, we went to National Night Out, and we're driving to National Night Out, and some of you remember or have heard the story. We pulled up in two of our Crown Victorias, and as we're there at National Night Out, they both blew up in front of, at the block party. Steam's coming out the engines, flatbed tow trucks. We're transporting council with us, right, to go to these block parties. Council gets out of the car, cars are running, boom, they blow up, smoke, mist and steam's flying everywhere. Tow trucks show up and they're towing these cars off, right? And then at that point, we're like, we've got to do something, right? And so at that point in time, we were able to, you know, make some cuts within the current budget to be able to help offset some of the costs, but then with a little bit of an increase from the measure, what happened was we were able to buy that new fleet right out of the gate. So we went and bought an entire new fleet of 17 and 18 Ford Explorers, so our officers are much safer. They're getting to the calls on time, getting there a lot safer. So it's safer not only for them, but it's also safer for the constituents, because those cars are, you know, a lot more reliable than what we had before. I mean, I'll never forget driving down, I was behind a vehicle and we were trying to make a stop, and there was in a vehicle pursuit, and the front siren fell off the front push bumper in the front wheel. So it's just one of those things that, I mean, we went from those times to where we're at now. So it's truly a blessing to be able to get to the calls for service and know they're going to get there safe. We've adopted I think a robust vehicle replacement program. So, you know, we're going to be constantly replacing those as they run out, so that way we can keep everything going. We were just able to add radar and LiDAR units. I mean, believe it or not, we never had. So, I mean, we had one LiDAR unit, we got some grants, but we never had radar units, so we just put those in patrol cars because we're getting a lot of complaints from our constituents about speeding in the residentials. So we've got radars and LiDARs in the cars now. And the other funny story is when I go back to the whole body cam thing, when I started here in 2001, the in-car camera system and camera there wasn't even body cameras then, it was just in-car camera systems. It was called Mobile Vision. It was a stainless steel box with a VCR in the trunk. Literally VCR tapes. So at the end of every shift, you had to push the eject button like you're at home. You get this VCR tape, and you go hand it to the watch commander, and there was like just drawers and drawers and drawers of all these VHS tapes, and you just log in there. It was recorded, and then you go and get the new VHS tape, and you plug it in. You hit the record button, and you go out of your shift for 12 hours. And then it's just a constant repeat, right? So can you imagine like redaction like today, or trying to get some video for, court case or whatever the case may be, and you have 12 hours of VHS, right? And when I talk to these young kids that we have now, talking about this new generation, right? I'm like, oh yeah, well we got VCRs and VHS. They're like, what is that, Chief? What is that? And I'm like, well, you talk about, floppy disk or, even CDs now, they kind of look at you like all weird. So, I mean, it's just a new age of technology, so we're very fortunate to be able to be where we're at with that.
Chief, you have community members here that are volunteers at Marysville Police Department. How's that going?
What's that? I didn't have a first
I said you have community members that are volunteers for the Marysville Police Department. How's that going?
I do have lots of community members that are volunteers. Rosemary's one of them. And we have, I think, we're up to 11 right now. Helen and Lauren Perkins, Rick Lim, Betty Huckins. And we have several members within the community that volunteer at our organization. They're super valuable and an asset to us. They do everything from record keeping, data entry, our vehicle maintenance. Some of them do our firearms program, so they'll go out to the range and help out on firearms, take our vehicles, like I said, over for maintenance. All of our special events, and we have lots of them. Our volunteers are super critical in that because they have to go out 72 hours in advance and post or give all the notices to businesses and the residentials that are affected within the area, and they hand deliver all those.
Yep.
Peach Festival, they started almost 2 months ago, and all the posters that you see everywhere, I mean, that's the crew, and that's the volunteers that are out there, not only blasting Yuba and Sutter County, they're up in Nevada City, Nevada County, Placer, Chico, Butte, they're all over the place, Colusa, and we don't pay them to do it, and they do it on their own vehicles, and they just go. Sometimes they take their volunteer vehicle, but a lot of times they're just because they just want to go have lunch or they want to go do something else, so they go do it. And I mean, it's just truly a blessing, and they're in there all week long. And I'll put the plug in because one of those Mary brought it up. If anybody wants to be a volunteer, come on down. We're always accepting them. We've got a spot for you because it's definitely nice to be able to see everybody making a contribution and giving back. On that side of it. So, thanks for bringing that up, Rosemary. And that's it. That's all I got.
So we'll have some questions, and let's keep our questions to a question. We don't want to hear a story and take up, a whole lot of time. So, I don't know that I can say it any nicer. Get to the point. So,
Amen.
You had a question.
Right, okay, regarding the 1% increase or not increase but extension. So like any tax, once the city, county or whatever gets used to that influx of money, there's almost no going back. So it's just like anybody, if you get a raise in your salary, you're gonna come up to that level of pay and then you can't go back. But if it doesn't go through, as you already had discussions on what's going to get cut, what would be the first thing that we would lose?
Yep.
Most likely, based on where we were in 2016, we would cut police, fire, admin, street folks, public works folks. Anything that's under the general fund, we would be looking to reduce positions. Now, police and fire are the last people we want to cut, but they're also the most expensive people in the organization, at the line level. So, we would cut that. We would likely cut any facilities or street improvement projects. We just wouldn't do them.
Thank you.
And we would likely go on furloughs again. That was very much.
So we'd go back to pre
Realistically, yeah. There might be some changes.
Actually, it might even be worse given the fact that everything costs more.
Hold on. Cody?
Thank you.
I have a two-part question. My first question is it's gonna, I know this one sunsets in 2026. Will this new extension have a sunset date? And are you taking measures to circumvent having to put this on the ballot another time?
So, those are trick questions. What we're proposing on the ballot does not have a sunset period. It would be repealable by the voters, obviously. But,
So,
Permanent.
it would not have a sunset. The second question was,
Are you taking measures to circumvent having to put it on a ballot?
that is the
Okay.
So it expires in 2026, October, correct? So in light of our circumstances, when you have, inflation at 136%, I mean, that's real what's happening, not what our administration today is putting out there. Is there any thought of doing this in the spring? Because we've got, Plymouth Lake has 5 school bonds coming. Wheatland's got 2. The college is talking about a school bond. That's gonna affect all the property taxes. And again, I understand that doesn't affect, Marysville proper. The college does. But people are hurting.
Mhm.
I mean, people can't make ends meet right
Amen.
now. And is there any thought to putting it on in the spring instead of right now when the new administration would probably get us back to 2016?
honestly, I haven't thought about putting it on the spring. We debated on whether to put it on previous spring, or November. And I'll be honest with you, we just want to have 2 shots at it. If it doesn't pass this time, we're looking ahead to see whether we can get it on the ballot. So, I have not thought about putting it on spring. It is a good point, though, if there's a change in leadership, that may help.
Right.
Does Costco help you?
Costco does not help us, it's outside of Marysville.
So you don't get a cut of Costco?
No,
Not
it's
at
all
this
with,
time.
it's all within
I understand.
the.
So, and there may have been some indirect benefit to Costco, just people traveling through may stop, but we don't get any of that tax.
So is there any negotiation with, the state, when you take, where Caltrans building is, where the school's nest used to be, that's a pretty nice piece of, real estate right there.
Same with Habitat.
You had businesses that were there, that were paying property taxes, and now you have somebody who's not. Any negotiation with the state in regards to those kinds of?
I'm trying to bite my tongue, but, I've had lots of discussion with the state on various topics, including the injunction project, our B Street property, this latest, debacle on, with the highway. And what I typically find is I'm in a room or a Zoom meeting with 28 people and no decision can be made. So I don't have any prospect, based on my experience with the state on the other issues, that they would be willing to somehow give us money in lieu of property tax.
So when somebody like Caltrans comes in and says, I want to build right there, does the city have any say in that?
They can take it typically through eminent domain. And it's not it's also not a disallowed use, status from a nonprofit to a for-profit. That zoning really doesn't differentiate. The hospital is also a nonprofit. So, we get a significant amount of property tax, but, I don't think that's killing us, to have.
Well, at this point, every penny helps.
Amen.
So,
Literally,
I can
every
tell
penny
you, and we didn't touch on this, but economic development. And Dan is here, but, Dan isn't here.
Firebug
but,
Flores.
Our push has been economic development, and it definitely has not been non-taxable entities moving in. We're very much for, market rate housing, because that generates property tax. We're very much for retail business and, tax generators. such as fuel sales, restaurant sales, and stuff like that. We've met our target, state target for affordable housing, and so there's lots of subsidies out there for affordable housing, but I don't think that really spurs our economy.
Joanna, let me just jump in on that whole idea that you're throwing out there. We have put together with the county a liaison committee, which meets with them because we have the same problem with them. They put the government center in, no tax. They put the new hospital or medical piece on the courthouse, no tax. You know, juvenile hall, anything they do. So we have said, hey, look, the sheriff's building.
Right.
If you guys get broke into, who goes? He goes.
Now,
if you have an emergency fire, we go. So we are in discussion of how we can get a little support back from them.
and the county has been receptive.
They have been receptive.
I have a lot more faith in the county to do it than the county, to be honest. Yes.
So just to reiterate, this tax extension that you're requesting people support would be a permanent tax, no sunset, correct? And the second part of my question is, how much does Marysville receive from Measure K funds?
Zero.
We don't receive any money directly.
Oh.
What we receive is from D10 Hallwood Fire District, because they contract with us to provide the fire protection. So that's the money we get. They pay us using some Measure C money.
I thought you,
Measure K money.
Or, Measure K, sorry.
well, because I was at a supervisor meeting last year when there was, I think, 300,000 or 400,000 in which that the city withdrew from the Measure K fund to help afford the 5th Street repavement project. So that's why I asked that question.
There was no money received from the county's Measure K funds for 5th Street repaving project.
So my question is I met with the original ad hoc committee, including Chief Easton, on the cannabis dispensaries, which are now here. I was the first one to sell them, and I want to know why the city, before this sunsetting happened, hasn't expanded into mobile distribution, which would increase your tax revenue base all the way from Chico to Sacramento, before this sunsetting, kind of to make it where, you know, obviously it would be a bonus if it was renewed, but not necessary probably.
So our cannabis tax we collect, we have 2 dispensaries.
Yep.
And that is the limit that council put on it, 2 dispensaries. We've looked at mobile delivery service, and Chief has worked with some of the potential providers for that. Frankly, the cannabis industry's kind of fallen on its face a little bit.
Yeah, the state being a 50% partner definitely hinders the ability to sell it. However, how much money does that still bring in a year even?
It brings in roughly a little under $1 million.
A little under $1 million now, but it kept the city afloat during the pandemic, correct?
It helped keep the city afloat.
That's right. So what do we have to do to get mobile distribution added to increase the tax revenue from Chico to Sacramento? That's a much larger tax base.
We have to have a provider interested in doing it and be able to feasibly do it.
Okay.
I think we've been talking to different providers, and Chief has been very involved in that, but frankly, those folks can't put their business plan together to make it work.
Yeah, it's hard with the state being in at 50%. I'm hoping more of us will lobby the state to lower the taxes. There's a big movement for that, but you know, California, they want to tax everything to death that brings prosperity and jobs.
Mobile distribution, mobile delivery, distribution, and type in manufacturing are all approved cannabis businesses within the city. So all those licenses are available.
Very good.
So what type in is like a repackaging and relabeling. Distribution, obviously, it's part of the process, right? So, you know, with the cannabis industry, just super quick so some people understand the whole part of it, with the track and trace. When it's grown in the ground, every plant's got a barcode on it now. So when it goes through the process, it goes to manufacturing. From there, it goes to distro. From the distribution, it's there. The labs come in and do all the state testing for it. We do have a certified lab. One of the highest qualities that sets actually the DCC standard for the state is right here, right catty corner from the courthouse. They actually set the standards for the state, in the state with their state-of-the-art equipment that's in there. So
Good people.
they do all the testing there. Then from the testing, it goes back out to the distribution. The distribution distributes it to all your wholesalers, like your dispensaries, and all your other cannabis companies. Your mobile delivery. Now also from the distro side, you can have a type in manufacturing, which means you can package and relabel it. So you can have, Rose's cannabis, right? Sorry, Rose, but you can, it doesn't matter, right? You can have Rose's cannabis, right? And she makes her own label and repackages it and labels it. Now she's selling it as Rose's cannabis, right? And so those licenses are available. We have been working with some interested parties. Like Mr. Shab said, the cannabis market fell on its face. However, from that side of it, we do have a lab that is still in operation, 2 dispensaries that are in operation, and we are, working with a vendor now for just looking at the distribution and mobile delivery side. So he's got a pretty good plan, but we're just waiting to see it to come to fruition. They always have good plans, right? It always looks good on paper, but we've been looking at this good plan for the last 2 years, and so a lot of stuff going back and forth with them. But we've been diligent and we've been trying to open up our arms to that to see how we can get that.
Okay, so
Because we do see that.
I want to
Good,
jump
thank
in
you.
for a minute from the council. I am not a big believer in cannabis, okay? I did not want to see it come into town. It was coming, and that's why we worked with Chris to, this actually I think started before you.
Yep.
Of how we would limit the licensing. So we said 2 dispensaries. That's it. We've had plenty more that would like to be here on dispensaries.
So they said no to
Then you have to
taxes
get
so
there.
they
You have
can
to
raise
grow,
ours.
manufacture, distribute, go to that. I am still not a fan.
Of course not, it's
When
not
we
raising
first
our
started
taxes, it's
this,
selling.
I believe that you were maybe around that point, we were up in the $2 million area of the income from it. But cannabis is falling on its face. One of it is, as Zach, as you said, the state has just overregulated it, overcharging on it. You can get on the black market cheaper than you get it here.
Yep,
The only difference is you're not getting it from a tested
might be
lab.
poison, yep.
So it's a little dangerous.
You can
Yeah.
get it in the mail.
Yes. So I just want to make the point that I do not want to be like some of these counties that are known for being the weed capital of the world.
So,
And I have brought this up more than once at the council meetings.
so you heard
I
it from
do not
Bruce,
want
other
Marysville
options
to be
available,
known as
he'd rather
the
tax
city of
us to
cannabis.
death like the state has cannabis.
So, not even marijuana. So I'm just letting you know where I'm personally
Okay.
at. I'm not talking for the council, I'm talking for me. But that is why we limited the licensing. Chris was a big part of that. Chris is the one that enforces all that. And I'm sure he probably could have filled a lot more licensing on the dispensary end. But we still have licensing available.
So we need a
So
people's
it's not like
initiative.
It's the biggest
Gotcha.
license in the world out there just making tons of money.
If the rate went to 7.25, would that be the lowest sales tax in Northern California?
I think that's the bottom.
Be close.
Is there another county that's 7.25?
Good
There's a lot of
question.
counties at 7.25.
Yeah.
I deal with that every day.
Yep.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of them at 7.25.
So it wouldn't be an advantage, like, increase the volume, and decrease the price, advertise Marysville City as the, take a sales tax holiday, shop in Marysville.
I don't think that would be enough to sway the consumer, to be honest.
So, I've got one more question, and this is to the Central Committee and also the council and the manager and the chief even. Yuba Water Agency has more money than it can spend. We are generating about $250 million a year off energy revenue alone. and we have more money than, we're making ourselves a target. Now, I have nothing bad to say about Don Blazer. He's a nice guy, but Mr. House has promised he will ask for money. We haven't asked for any money for our roads, where Olive First is getting curbs, gutters, and sidewalks. Will the Republican Central Committee and the city come with me to a Yuba Water Agency meeting and ask for money for our roads, sidewalks, and gutters, which are older and in disrepair in many situations?
I can tell you, I won't commit to that. I have discussions with the Yuba Water folks all the time, and they have been fairly generous with money, but they have a core mission that they follow, which is storm prevention, water resource.
Right.
Roads really aren't in their
Which is
core
where the
mission.
storm drain system comes into
And
play.
we will ask for storm drain money,
Mhm.
but it's very difficult to ask for paving. And I'm not representing the Yuba Water Agency, but everybody wants money from the Yuba Water Agency. And the Yuba Water Agency has a core mission that they have to follow. They can't just necessarily give money away.
Yeah, it has to do with anything with water, yes. And I know there are several storm drains, like at Lip and Sullivan, for example, that water can get above the sidewalk and up to the front steps of the funeral home there, which is what, 2 feet above street level, approximately 18 inches, something like that.
So what we are going to be asking Yuba Water Agency for, most likely, is exactly that, storm drain related projects. Storm drain, we pump a lot of water out of the city and into the river every winter. And we're working on some of those facilities, and Yuba Water Agency can help us with that.
Okay.
We also are working on mapping out all of our sewer and storm drain facilities to determine what condition they're in and what capacity they have. The state, through their state revolving fund, can pay for sewer stuff, which we are working on a grant to do that mapping with a pilot project beyond that, or I shouldn't even say a pilot project, fairly substantial project beyond that, because that's what the state wants. But the state, that funding will not cover storm drains. Storm drains comes out of street funds, and we're already short on street funds. So that may be appropriate to ask from the water agency, but the first step is to understand what problems we have with our storm drains, and that's the money we'll ask for.
Okay.
I wanted to answer, gentleman over here, I think, asked about the sunset of the tax. I'm not sure who asked that. But what I want you to know is, yes, this one does not have a sunset. But the way that can be looked at also is, we're putting on a oversight committee. Again, Jim said we haven't quite.
Measure K Oversight Committee did nothing for the people, ladies and gentlemen. Look it up for yourself.
If that committee, along with the public, ever said, we think you're wasting the money and we want to pull that back, it can definitely go back on the ballot and the citizens can vote it off. So it's not like there's no way, to end this thing. But as you know, 1 cent, and with the way the economy's going, everything's more expensive, therefore we need that 1 cent on everything.
My
Go
rebuttal
ahead.
to your committee is, generally, if you go against the person who's sponsoring you on that committee, you're fired.
Amen.
Do you have
Okay.
do you have a question, Tom?
I'm not sure what that
I have a
meant.
rebuttal.
I'm not sure what that meant, so I can't respond.
Okay, so, we still have other stuff on our agenda. I don't know if you three gentlemen, if you've gotta go, or if you wanna stay till after, if you guys wanna have your own conversations with them. Whether it's here or at another time, that's fine, but we do need to keep going. I thank you guys for explaining that.
I'm ready to go. Are you
I
ready
think
to
that
go?
everybody, I've had extensive conversations and,
Because she's canceling them out right now.
I'm glad everybody else is able to hear, what you guys had to say, so thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can they take 5 or 10 minutes and talk about the hotel?
Yes.
Okay.
5 minutes to talk about
I'll
hotels,
try and go
and
fast.
then,
So, where are my notes?
When's the next California?
I use a pencil because I typically make
I'm a farm
mistakes.
boy, but an excavator with a large boom could probably do the job
And I
pretty
use
good.
notes because I typically forget.
And that
So-
jackhammer implement.
Marysville Hotel's been vacant for 40-some odd years. The current ownership, which is an LLC, a limited liability company, designed on purpose for that property, shields the owners from lawsuits, shields the owners from responsibility. We don't even know who the owners of Feather River Plaza LLC. And they've given us to their attorney, who specializes in real estate litigation. He's a interesting gentleman.
What's his name?
He and I don't get along, as you might imagine. The company had no insurance. They initially told us they were self-insured,
What?
which means in their business, not insured. So, there is no insurance to cover the work that needs to be done. So we'll probably end up in litigation. That's my guess. We've been trying to settle with them. They've made us some really piddly offers. I don't know if that's politically correct, but they've offered us less money
say
and
what he
property
can.
than
Chicken
it's gonna
shit
take
offers.
to remediate and get rid of the building. So it's not a great deal for us. So why would we take on a loss? We declared a local emergency, and we did that for a reason, to see if there was state and federal assistance available. The owner actually did hire a structural engineer, and that engineer said the building was potentially going to fail, and that's why there's a 105-foot perimeter around the building, based on the engineer's opinion and Cal OES's guidelines. That caused State Route 70 to be shut down indefinitely until we can figure out a solution. And then we found out that the building has significant asbestos in it.
Yep.
More fun. So, the traffic's been detoured. Caltrans, well, some of us love the new traffic.
Businesses are closing.
I do not, because it's killing our businesses downtown.
Yep.
A lot of the mom and pop places in the downtown area are suffering. They're losing money. We're estimating the cost to abate, and the pretty wide range from contractors between $2.5 million up to $4 million. With all the other costs, it could get up to $5 million. So I mentioned our reserve will be 5.3 to give you a comparison of where we're at. Another complication is the building is on the state historic register. So even though we want to tear it down, we've got to get concurrence from the state before we tear it down. We've met with the county, Cal OES, the State Department of Toxic Substance Control, Caltrans, and most recently the U.S. EPA. We haven't seen a lot of assistance. The U.S. EPA has been the most helpful of all of those organizations, and so I'm very happy with them. The U.S. EPA was going to chat with the owner and see if that persuaded them to do anything. Don't know if that'll work. So state and federal aid not looking promising. We may end up, if we have to abate it, which we do not want to do, we're not interested in owning property.
Not after C Street.
We would love the place to be developed, and perhaps this is going to be a tough time right now, but in the end, we may have a developable lot and something productive for the city.
Hopefully
If
not
we
another
do
gas
take
station.
ownership of it, then we have control over what goes on there. So that that is one positive, similar to, I hate to use this example, but our B Street property.
Yep.
A lot of decisions were made that cost the city a lot of money.
Yep.
But now that we own the property, we were able to get what we wanted on that property, and that was a hotel grocery store. If we own this property, which, as I said, I don't want to, but if we do, then we'll be very particular about what goes in there. Likely some kind of market rate housing and retail on the bottom if we have our choice.
No gas station, awesome.
Got enough gas stations, and they, going back to property tax, that doesn't generate a lot of property tax. It generates some sales tax, but it probably robs some of the others. You just start cannibalizing. So housing and retail and maybe some office space. But we're a long way from that. We started legal action against the owner Friday with our county court. And we are looking at abating the property and tearing the building down if we can't get the owner to do it. So that's where we're at.
What's the name of the attorney we're dealing with?
What is his? Oh, his name is Daniel Katz.
Thank you. And his office?
DJK.
Very good. And his office is where, in case some of us activists maybe want to go
Los
pick it?
Angeles.
Oh, that's a long ways to go hold signs up.
And I
Okay.
have contacts, a contact list we've been sharing with anybody who wants it.
Very
and
good.
would like to reach out to the owner, the managing principals and the property management company and the attorney.
About 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah. that's
Thank
where
you
we're
guys
at.
for your work on it and your transparency.
Real quick question, the building that is across the street from it, it used to have the,
Dealership.
Marysville Casino in it. Now, is that not owned by the same people?
The
I believe
420
I saw the
building is
same.
owned by a different LLC, but same underlying ownership, and, yeah. so-
Have you looked into them to make sure that the same pitfall doesn't
Yes.
go away?
In
And
fact, we will be likely asking our local judge for inspection warrants to go over there and check those buildings
Thank
out.
God. Thank God.
As well as the Tower Theater.
They don't own the whole
Good.
Or,
building.
excuse me,
The State
Okay.
Theater.
Not the whole block.
I
like
do
where
recall
some of
seeing
casino
the-
is.
the sign on
It's
both.
It's only halfway down East Street where the
Yeah,
old furniture.
just wanna try to avoid any other further pitfalls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are looking along that Key Street corridor and the highways, particularly with tall buildings that could cause the same kind of problem, and we'll be ramping up our enforcement. We had about $40,000 on of enforcement penalties on the hotel already.
That's why they started
Thank you,
fixing it up.
Jim. And again, these guys are available if you guys, have other questions. And are you gonna stick around to check now?
How long?
We're only like 5 more minutes.
Oh.
I'll make it quick. So we have a bunch of sign-up sheets up here for our next, events that we will be having. There's a couple of them that we are double booked. When you talk about outreach and, of what we were doing as the central committee, we are going to all of the events within Marysville and, trying to reach Yuba County, trying to reach Pouce Lake, trying to reach the hills, trying to reach Wheatland, all of that, to do that, but we need hands on deck to help us. The 4 of us during the fair, we had Karen and Christine come and help us at the fair. It's a lot of work, and so we need help to do this. This is our final fight, everyone, for our country of what is happening.
Amen.
So, it's requiring all hands on deck. So we have the Marysville Peach Festival coming up July 19th and 20th. We also have Lori Wallace is
hotel
putting
dinner, I
on,
think.
she's our regional vice chair. She's putting on a training on functional central committees, finding candidates, helping candidates and whatnot on the 20th of that same weekend. Her cost is $20 or $25. I will send that out on our $20. I will send that out to everybody. If you can go, it's gonna be a learning time. I think it's gonna be good. I think it's like from 9 to 3, something like that. So highly encourage that.
Where?
In Durham. And, again, please sign up for any of those, events that you would be able to help out with. We also have, if you didn't sign in and we don't already have your contact, if you could please do that. And David, do you have anything from Doug?
I do, yeah. So I'll go real quick, cause
You're
everyone's trying to
nothing
get out of
Doug's
here.
spokesman.
David with Doug's office. So Doug LaMalfa applauded the Supreme Court ruling on Chevron and the Grant Pass. The court overturned the Chevron doctrine, which since 1984 has deferred interpretation of ambiguous state statutes to unelected bureaucrats and federal agencies. This decision restores the checks and balances in the executive branch and returns the legislative authority back to Congress and the people who elect those members. The court also ruled in regards to the Grant Pass that cities now can enforce bans on homeless people sleeping outdoors and in public spaces such as sidewalks and parks. Doug was also a member who supported and submitted the amicus brief on that ruling. He also led an effort to block the Biden administration's top-down forestry plan, stating regional voices should be prioritized and have proven the bureaucrats have proven time and time again that they do not wish to authorize the work needed on our forests to reduce wildfire risks, such as thinning projects and timber harvesting. He also supported H.R. 8790, the Fix Our Forests Act, in the House Natural Resources through a committee vote. The bill contains several provisions that we talked about in the Farm Bill, which also had some of those. It's basically going to speed up the process on thinning and allow for the Forest Service to use more of the tools that they already have. He also commented on President Biden's unconstitutional amnesty plan, stating the Biden administration cannot wave a magic wand and grant over 500,000 illegal immigrants lawful status and a path towards citizenship. We are a nation of laws, not the caprice of a dictator who is attempting to rewrite clear laws by reinterpreting words to mean anything he wants. He's been around the district. We saw the Thompson fire, a couple updates from there. We also have 3 members from the district that are attending U.S. military academies. 2 are in the U.S. Air Force and 1 is in the U.S. Navy. So, there you go.
Woohoo! Oh, good. I'm glad to hear he did something.
Make a motion.
Perfect, I understand. Perfect. Again, before we leave, I just want to thank you guys. It's a full house. I appreciate everybody coming. We try to make our committee as effective as possible. We try to make it informative. Please, if you have any questions, my number's out there. I'll give it to you. If you don't have it, holler, text anytime. And thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
All right.